right. What is going on, everyone? I know it's been a while since I've dropped a new tutorial. I plan on going back and redoing the Sanity blog or portfolio site. I feel like I made it a little too complicated using Vite and Tailwind, so I'm going to go back and just use Sass for the styling and just create React app for the front end. I'm still going to use Sanity, but I plan on getting to that eventually. But this is a JavaScript tutorial. Essentially, it's an age checker to see if someone is old enough or allowed to buy alcohol. This idea came from many years of bartending and checking many IDs and always doing a lot of mental math in my head to figure out if they are of age or not. So what we got here is a date input form right here. And when you put in someone's date, let's say 1988, and click on the submit, some logic happens and it tells you if they can drink or if they can't drink, and it also tells you how old they are. So they can drink, they are 33 years old. Let's change the date to 2002 and see what happens. They cannot drink, they are only 19 years old. All right, so let's get started. There's not a whole lot to this, not a lot of styling, not a lot of setup. I'm going to be building this out of CodePen. CodePen is free and it's awesome. So the first thing we want is HTML setup. So we want a div with the container, with the class of container. And inside that div, let's just add a h2 and add some dummy text. Are they old enough to drink? Just add a little beer emoji. If you're on Mac, you can just hold Control Command and press spacebar in, and you can get your emojis. All right, and then below that, let's add a line break, and let's have a form. And inside that form, we want to input. And we want that to be a type of date. Let's go ahead and make that required. And let's give it an ID of input. Okay, and below the form, let's go ahead and do another line break. And then let's add a button. And this button type is going to be of submit. And let's give it an ID of submit. And then let's just have it say submit DOB for date of birth. And then the last thing that we're going to need is we're going to need another div. Let's add another line break. Let's add a div with the class of display. And this is where we're going to display the age and whether or not they can drink or not. Okay. All right, for the CSS, I'm going to copy in some standard styles. On the body, we're going to have a background image of a linear gradient. It kind of gives us this nice navy blue color. We're going to set the font family to Montserrat. The height is going to be 100 VH, and the text color is going to be white. And then for the container, we just need to add a couple things to it. Let's add a width of 900 pixels. And then let's kind of move everything to the center, so we can do margin 0 auto, and that will kind of move it to the center. And then we can align our text to the center too. So text align center. All right, and then there's just two more classes we want to add. So when we display whether they can drink or cannot drink, we want to have a little bit of styling to that. So we'll have a class of success, and we'll just make that color green. All right, and then we want a class of danger, and we'll just set the color to red. All right, so that's going to be most of our setup. That's actually all of our setup. Let's move all this out the way. Actually, let's leave the HTML up a little bit. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to grab some HTML elements. So what do we want to grab? We want to grab the submit button. We want to grab the date input right here. And then we want to grab that div that has nothing in it, which is going to be right here. So we'll do const button. We'll set that equal to document.querySelector. And we want to grab the ID of submit. All right, next thing we want to grab is the input. So const input, we'll set that equal to document.querySelector. And we want to grab the class of input. Okay, and then we want to grab that display. So const display. Whoops. And that has a class of display. All right, so we have all of our HTML elements that we're going to need for the logic. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a new date, which is going to be this current date. We want to turn it into JSON, and then we want to slice the information that we want from the date, and then we want to replace some of the text that comes back. There's going to be some dashes in there that we don't want, so we'll replace that with an empty string. I know all of this because I had to go on Stack Overflow because using dates is pretty confusing with JavaScript. So a lot of stuff is pulled from, doing a lot of research online, not just me knowing the proper logic to it. So let's go ahead and make a new date. So we'll do const date, and we'll set that to new date, which is JavaScript. Next, we want to turn it into JSON, so to JSON. And then we want to slice. We want to start at position 0, end at position 10. And then next we want to replace those dashes. So the way you do it is replace, and then it's going to be /, where's that? Yeah, // followed by a G, and then a comma, and then whatever you want to replace that with. So we're going to replace it with empty parentheses. And in between these two slashes is going to be the character that you want to replace. So we want to replace the dash. So that's going to remove all the dashes that we have. Okay, next we want to turn this date. So this date is still a string. Since we're going to be using some math with this, we need to turn the date into an integer. And one way to do it is using parse int. So we'll say const format date, and then parse int, and we want to pass through that date variable. Okay, so now that we have our current date, we want to next we want to do is add an event listener on the button and do an anonymous function. If you're going to do a bigger project, I always recommend pulling creating a function and then passing it through the event listener as opposed to writing it within the event listener. But this is just a very basic app, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So we're going to do button dot add event listener. All right, we're going to listen for a click, and then we're going to have a function. We're going to pass through an event. And we're going to pass through the event because we want the page to not reload every time we submit. So one way we can do that is to prevent a default on the event. So we'll say e.prevent default. Okay, give myself a little bit of space. And here we need to, the next thing we need to do is we need to grab the user's input from that date form. We need to turn it into a number, and we also still need to replace those dashes. So we can turn this, we can make this into a one-liner. So let's say const, or not const, let's do let input DOB for the input date of birth, and we'll set that to parse int, and we want to parse the input dot value, and on that value we also still want to replace the dashes with empty quotations. Let's go ahead and get that dash in between the slashes. Okay, so we've got our user input, and now we need to do a little bit of math. I also had to do some Googling with this because apparently how computers deal with dates is based off of something called the epoch. A lot of dates are based off of the year of 1970 or 1973. So we have to do a little bit of logic, and again, this is something I had to Google for. So we'll say let age, and we want to do math.floor. We want to floor the difference between our format date, which is what we made right here, and we want to subtract the input date of birth from that current date. And in order to get a year back, or how many years difference it is, we have to divide by 10,000. Again, this is something I had to look up. I would not have been able to figure this out on my own. Essentially what this is doing is we're subtracting the user's date of birth from the current date, and then dividing by 10,000, which is going to give us the years difference. Okay, and now all we need to do is a basic if statement. So to test this out, see if it's working, we can do if age is greater than or equal to 21. For now, let's just console.log they are old enough. All right, and then let's do an else statement. Say else. We'll just have a console.log they are too young. Okay, let's test this out. So this is the console. This is CodePen's console, not my Chrome console. So I'm going to do a quick clear of it. And let's do the year 1988. And when I click on submit, we should have a console log of they are old enough. Yep, there we go, right here. So that logic's working. Let's change the date to 2002. See if it comes up false. And yep, they are too young. But obviously we don't want these console logs. We want to actually display it on the interface. So what can we do? We can say display.innerHTML, and we can set that to a pair of template literal quotes or template strings, and give ourselves a little bit of space, and inside there we want a paragraph. Let's go ahead and close out the paragraph. Alright, and in here we could say they are, let's say they can, actually let's wrap this can around a strong tag. Go ahead and close that. And if you remember, we had two different classes that we're going to use to style this text. So we set this as a class of success, and we'll get that nice green text. And then in between we can say they can drink. They are, and if you use a $sign and a pair of curly braces, we can drop in JavaScript variables into our string. So we'll just drop in the age, years old. Okay, Let's see if this is working. Go ahead and clear out the console again. Let's put in a date. All right, and if I click it, it should appear right here. Yep, there we go, and we get that green text right there. They can drink. They are 33 years old. I am old. Wow. All right, let's just go ahead and copy this again and drop it in this else statement, and then let's just change this class from success to danger. And then inside the strong tag, let's add a cannot, and then let's say right before the age, they are only years old. All right, now let's see if that's working. 2002, okay, 0101 2002. And there we go. They cannot drink. They are only 19 years old. All right, so this is a fun little exercise with JavaScript dates. I hope you learned something from it. I definitely did. Again, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video or found anything useful from it. And I will be getting back to redoing that React Sanity blog. And I also have another project that I'm wrapping up right now where I'm going to be filming a tutorial on how to build an e-commerce store with React, Sanity.io, and Snipcart. That one was pretty fun to do, so I'll definitely be making probably a two-part series on that. And also, if you want to help support this channel and support my content, I created a Ko-fi account. So if you feel like you can, please buy me a coffee. All right, and that link will be in the description. So, all right, thank you for watching.